I first wanted to just put out how this all came about. We put this together in the past few days. As all of us know, there is a crisis happening, a global crisis. And I personally have had people reach out to me. Dr. Nafisa has had people reach out to her as well. And I just, thought about what's the best way to try to get, a message out to people to just give them some tips, some pointers, some help as they're quarantined and maybe, dealing with a lot of stress in that situation. So I thought of asking Dr. Nafisa if she would join us because as a professional, this is her niche. This is her area of specialty. I mean, mashallah, she's very talented in many areas, but she has an entire course on anxiety management. And I thought it would be so beneficial for people who don't know her or don't have access to mental health help to actually get tips from a professional on how to cope with their stress and anxiety during this crisis situation. And of course, there's so many reasons why people would be anxious, maybe for their own safety, their own health, as well as the health of loved ones. Maybe they're worried about their work. I personally, for example, I'm not working right now, so I definitely can relate to being out of work during this time. But there are other people as well who are the primary, providers for their families and loved ones. So they might have anxiety for that. There's a host of reasons why people are anxious, but in terms of how to calm ourselves down, I thought it would be great to, again, have this opportunity to speak with a professional like Dr. Nafisa and hear from her, and also answer your questions. So this is a live Q&A. I don't know if that was clear in the flyer that we put out because, again, we did everything so quickly, but we do want to hear from you. So there's a feature at the bottom, and we kind of did a little tutorial yesterday where we learned how to do this, but at the bottom where it says comment, is an opportunity for all of you who are tuning in right now to ask your questions. I'm gonna get, because I'm the one hosting, I get a live a notification that a question has been submitted, then I can read it, and of course I'll read it anonymously. So please don't worry, I will not disclose your name, but I will read the question to all of us, and then whether it's addressed to me or Dr. Nafisa, we'll take it from there. So that's sort of how this is going to go. But I wanted to start off right off the bat by asking Dr. Nafisa, if you had some tips right off the top of your head or just from your thinking about everything, what would they be, maybe top 3 or anything that you can offer for people who right now are feeling all of those feelings of anxiety and really just maybe even paralysis, fear, agoraphobia. There's so much going on with people. What tips would you offer for people who are suffering maybe some things right now and don't really know how to get a handle on it?
Well, salam alaikum, everybody. Sorry about my setting up here. This is my first live, so excuse any of the mistakes that are being made, but I'm glad to be here and I'm glad you guys are all joining us. I think right now everybody is so inundated with so much information coming at them, and they're constantly attached to their TVs and their phones and just being bombarded with news. And so that's creating a sense of panic in everybody, but that's the last thing you need to do, because when we're panicking, we're weakening our immune system, making it likely for us to get sick. So we need to stay calm. You have to stay calm, and you really have to make sure you're prioritizing your mental health at this point and make sure that you're staying mentally healthy, because we need you all to be mentally healthy. We're seeing people doing a lot of crazy things right now, hoarding toilet paper being one of them. But we need to just keep our mind and wits about us, because it's really important for us and our families for us to stay calm and not panic. So I would also recommend limiting the consumption of news. So maybe you can check the news in the morning, check it in the afternoon. I know every 30 seconds there's breaking news right now, but check it in the morning, check it in the afternoon, check it at night. You do not need to have the TV going on all day long. That's not good for your families. It's not good for you. And so it's really important to limit the consumption. And also when we're panicking or when we're watching the news constantly, we're activating our fight or flight. And that's exactly what triggers anxiety. When we're in a fight or flight mode, we're not thinking clearly, we're in a survival mode, and all we want to do is just trying to just either survive. And so we need to calm down, breathe, and just really get ourselves centered again so that we can deactivate that fight or flight, and we can stop and think about all the things we do have control over, because anxiety needs us to feel controlled, but we're living in a very uncertain world. And this uncertainty is triggering your anxiety, but there's a lot of things that, first of all, the fact is we're going to have to learn to live in an uncertain world because there's not a lot we have control over in life. But we can find things that we have control over, and there's actually a lot we do have control over. And the first being your breath. Focus on your breath, take a deep breath. And one of the ones that I like is to imagine a square. And so breathe up for count of 4, going up to the square. So take a deep breath and count to 4. And then hold it for 4 going this way, and then breathe out coming down, and then do it again. Just keep repeating it until you get a sense of calm, and make sure it's a deep diaphragmatic breath and not a shallow one from the top of your chest. So another thing to do is to keep routines consistent. I know that if you're socially isolating or not isolating, what are we socially distancing ourselves? If you're socially distancing yourself, your routines are probably kind of thrown off. You're probably sleeping in later, you're waking up, you're staying up later. But try and keep your routines as consistent as possible. When you disrupt your sleep patterns, that's also going to make you feel more anxious. You're not getting the rest and repair that you need. Stop scrolling the news feeds until 1, 2, and 3 in the morning. Go to bed at a decent time. Make sure you're getting your rest. Wake up at the normal time that you're doing, because when you disrupt that cycle that we're naturally set up with, our circadian rhythm, then you're disrupting your sleep and putting yourself in like a jet lag mode, and that kind of messes you up as well. Another thing that I would really, really strongly recommend right now, I know people are looking for comfort foods and eating foods that are making them feel better or focusing on junk food. It's so important to eat well right now, making sure that you're feeding yourself the food that your brain and your body needs to keep you calm and keep your anxiety low. Because the reality is our gut bacteria, the trillions of them, are responsible for releasing the feel-good chemicals in our mind. 90% of our feel-good chemicals are in our gut. So when the gut is off because of stress, anxiety, for poor diet, lack of sleep, then it's not doing its job in releasing the feel-good chemicals. You need to stay calm. So it's really important to make good food choices. I hope I answered that. So I'll let you take it over from here.
No, those are great tips. I'm sure many of us learned a lot just in those few minutes. So thank you for sharing that.
I do want to touch on a grounding exercise that I can give people that they can do. And it's very simple, but so effective, especially during a panic attack. And it's just a matter of like stopping because when we're panicking, we're focusing on future, right? We're focusing on all the things we can't control. So we need to bring ourselves back into our body. And one of the best ways to do that is to stop and identify 5 things around you and name them by name, and literally call them like table, door, like literally name them 5 things around you. And then 3 different sounds that you're hearing, whether it's the air conditioner, the heater, birds, cars, whatever, just identify 3 different things that you're hearing so that all of this brings you back in your body. And then 1 thing that you can touch, whether that's your clothes, your pants, the wall, the chair, whatever you're sitting on or standing near, just touch something to bring your attention back into your body. So those are immediate things you can do. I think it's great to have a ritualistic routine as far as prayer, reading the Quran, just turning inwards and reflecting. That happens when we're calm or we're used to doing those things. But if we're not used to doing those things, jumping immediately into a routine might be very difficult for people. So start with where you are. There's a ton of great guided meditations on YouTube. I have a guided meditation challenge on my website. If you want to know about it, it's drsekandaricourses.com/meditate. And every day, if you sign up, every day you're getting a different type of meditation. And I have some meditations for children as well that you can try and use. It's just a matter of for 10 to 15 minutes, laying down and letting go and calming your brain down. That's all.
That's great advice. You touched on so many amazing points that I want to get to, but I see a question right now and I want to honor everybody who's asking me those questions. So if I miss something because the feed is moving fast, please repeat your question. You can also use the feature at the bottom. Now, I'm sorry, we do have some questions. Again, let me look at these questions. Can I go back to that?
Can I add to that
please.
A little bit?
Add to that. I'm going to catch up on the questions.
Okay. So 2 things. The first one about the parents, I did want to mention that their fear might be social isolation. So make sure you're giving them opportunities to connect to other people, that they don't have to just physically be in the same circle with the people, like have parties, but they can call them, they can maybe get them used to using WhatsApp or video conferencing. So teaching parents to do that, or even going and visiting them and making sure that people are calling them or you're calling them, is really important, because I think a fear is that if I'm not going out to see people and masjid prayers are canceled, I'm going to be socially isolated. And that's a big fear for our families, our parents. So make sure that you're staying connected, not just with your parents, but for yourself as well. And then also, you were saying, somebody mentioned if this is a punishment from God, and you had mentioned that this is an opportunity. I like to look at it as an opportunity. I mean, think about the entire world shut down last week, and it's giving the earth a chance to breathe. It's clearing up pollution. There are positive things that are coming out of this. It's forcing us to slow down. It's forcing us to stop and reflect on our lives. This is a wonderful opportunity. We can look at it as punishment, or we can look at it as Allah in 2020 is deciding to reset the world. We're going in the wrong direction, and it's forcing us to rethink our values. It's forcing us to rethink the path that we were on, and get back on the right path. And that could be spiritually, it could be business, it could be relationship. It's just a matter of looking at this time as a wonderful opportunity to reset.
Beautiful way of summarizing all of those points. Thank you, Dr. Nafisa.
I did want to go back to the question about people around you panicking. And so what the studies they've showed about domestic violence is domestic violence increases when the volume in the house is really loud. The TV's on, the kids are crying, everybody's just getting louder and louder. So people will start panicking if the TV is constantly blaring and negative news is constantly coming at you. Like they've noticed a huge decrease by just turning that TV off, just turning that volume off. Wow. Calming, creating a sense of calm in the house. Play classical music if you have to. Play, do something to create a sense of calm. Diffuse like lemon essential oil to create a sense of calm in the house. Whatever you need to do, lower the volume and turn off that TV. It makes a huge difference. So when everybody's panicking, that alone can calm people down. But also creating little circles within the family. If you're around people and you're all together, sit down, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what your struggles are, what your fears are, and just giving people that opportunity to speak about what they're struggling with, or even having that conversation, can make people feel heard and calm them down. So really pay attention to the noise level in your house, the volume. Don't blare even loud music, just calming music, calming sounds. Turn off that TV. I can't say that enough. That constant chatter, that constant news is just really hyping people up and making people feel panicked. And that's what we need to do, is we need to create a sense of calm.
Wow, I found that statistic really powerful. I've never heard that before. That's amazing that they found that correlation between volume level, wow, and domestic violence. I mean, these are the types of things we have to pay attention to, because, it all makes sense at the end, right? What you take in is going to manifest outwardly. So
your environment affects you so much. If you're not mindful about your environment, if you're not paying attention, like they say, you become you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with calm people, with people that are spiritual or balanced emotionally, or taking care of themselves, or living healthy lifestyles, you're going to end up emulating them whether you want to or not. If you're hanging out with people that are not doing those things, and your behavior is going to be shaped by the people you're around. So pay attention to the people you're hanging out with, pay attention to your environment. Like feng shui is a thing that it's a Chinese art that's been practiced for thousands of years. People can laugh about, feng shui not being real, but when you walk into an environment, you can feel whether that place is a happy place or a crazy place or a chaotic place. So one of the best things people can do during this time, actually, is clean your closets. I'm not encouraging OCD behavior and scrubbing and cleaning constantly, but just organizing a desk, organizing your closet, organizing a space that you sit in a lot can make a huge difference in your overall mental well-being, and just giving you a sense of calm. So those are some little things, little tweaks you can do just to create an environment that's peaceful. Having a TV in your bedroom, for example, it's totally against feng shui, but also it creates such negative energy when you're sitting in your bed and you're consuming all this negativity, whether it's violent movies, whether it's the news, whatever it is. It's just you're setting yourself up for having a chaotic day. So if you start off with gratitude in the morning, if you do your prayers, if you start off with some gentle yoga and stretching, you're setting yourself up for a better day than starting off with the news and craziness and then ending your night with the news and craziness. It just doesn't allow your brain to calm down and repair itself.
That is wonderful advice. Thank you so much. And just quickly, you know, I noticed, I think there was studies done, like in terms of feng shui, people don't realize that it is part of even the way that certain stores, for example, are set up. Why is it, for example, I don't know if anybody's ever done this little bit of an experiment, but see how you feel when you're in a Walmart versus a Target. And you tell me if you don't know the difference, because in Target, people can just, you know, go round and round, right? And they go, and because they've done so much study in terms of colors and sounds and how to create, right, a space that's actually warm and inviting, versus a Walmart where you kind of just want to get out of there, right? So test that out for yourself, just a little pointer. But thank you for that wonderful advice. Rebbe had a wonderful question here, which is actually a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next, because we did have some questions about parenting right now during this lockdown phase. And, you know, a lot of parents are freaking out because their kids are home from school, which I totally understand. If your kids are normally in schools right now and you're having to be home with them, that's going to obviously throw off your whole sense of balance, because it's not normal for you, right? So, you know, being in close quarters with anybody you know, there's going to create some tension eventually. But even with our families and loved ones, you could love your children, but still be like, oh my God, I can't see you anymore. So I'm a big fan of routine, like you said.
Social distancing.
Yeah, social distancing in the home. Routines that everybody can follow, where there's order in the house, like you said. But also, I think you have to create spaces for people. And
the bathroom is a great place for women.
I think men might also love the bathroom, but anyway, that's a total different topic. But I think just creating like boundaries within the home, right? Like quarters for, you know, I mean, unless you have a really nice palatial home where you can have a wing, maybe you can create the west wing and the east wing, or the, you know, whatever you want to do, but create sort of boundaries that say, this is my space, and I would, you know, I just want to chill here or have my retreats here if I need to get a break from the communal areas, because, you know, kitchens, family rooms are communal areas people like to gather, which is fine. But if you need to retreat, I think it's perfectly fine and acceptable. And also, as Rabin pointed out, we also need to look at the age ranges, because one of the things, as someone who works with parents and does parenting classes, that I notice is that we cannot, and I can't stress this enough, we cannot have a one-size-fits-all policy when it comes to parenting. Parenting has to be tailored for your child, because children are different. We have different temperaments, different personalities, different ages. There's so many things that make our children, like us as adults, unique. So if you kind of look at your children all like, oh, lump sum, and you have the same rules for everybody, it's not going to work, and you're likely going to get pushback and a lot of the doors slammed in your face. So let's reassess how to do that properly. I would say younger children, you know, again, their temperaments and personalities are going to differ. But one of the tools that I think can apply to all age ranges, which every parent should know, it's such a simple tool, but it's something we should all know for ourselves and for our children. Love languages. Because everybody's different, right? Everybody has different needs. So the 5 love languages are very, like, it's a wonderful tool. And you'll see that you start to see the people in your home a little bit differently once you know what their love language is, because you appreciate their unique qualities, right? So the love languages are quality time, so actually spending time with another person, physically being in the same space with them. Words of affirmation, which is positive feedback, compliments, a lot of validation verbally, right? Physical touch, so this could be affection, hugs, kisses, you know, just really connecting physically. Gifts, right? So you can make things together, you know, treats, giving treats, whatever. We can talk about individually how that can play out with children. And then the last one is acts of service. So actually helping one another with whatever is going on in the house. So if you actually stop as a parent and look at your children, like I have 2 boys, for example. One of them is, he loves affection, total cuddler. He comes maybe to my office, I don't know, 20 times plus a day for a hug. That's all he wants. He'll knock on the door and go, can I come in? I just need a hug. Okay, we're giving hugs out. I'm a hug distributor. I'm giving out hugs
And you
24/7.
give great hugs.
Thank you. He actually says that too. But but alhamdulillah, he says he's addicted to my hugs, which is great. I hope that
I can
lasts.
see that.
But giving hugs, right? I know that that's part of his love language. He just needs that physical proximity, that connection with me. My other one, oh my gosh, he's a hugger, but he's more words of affirmation. I just have to validate him on everything he does, constantly tell him how special he is, how wonderful he is, how he did his homework so great, how he made his bed so wonderful, whatever it is. But I know that about my children because I'm paying attention to them. So if you've maybe because you don't have that much time during the day, and I know people work and their schedules and kids are so overscheduled that we don't have those times of connection as much as we should. Oh my God, that's why you have to see this opportunity as a windfall, because you have maybe 2-3 weeks where you can actually observe each other, not like observe them like zoo animals, but like observe, watch, and pay attention to the different nuances of each person in your household, but use the love languages as a framework to kind of understand people differently. And you'll see that some children, teens for example, they might not want to spend a lot of quality time with you right now. And that's okay. That's very normal for teen behavior. Mm-hmm. Teens are not, they want to isolate themselves. They'd rather be with their peers. So if they're on, different apps talking to their friends more than they want to spend time with you, don't personalize that. That's not, that's not an issue for you to make into an argument or to get upset about them with. Rather look at it like it's normal teen behavior. They need that, their time with their peers, but maybe they would appreciate acts of service or even words of affirmation. Teens they do like praise. I think everybody does, right? So maybe just, increasing that dial a little bit more, where you're actually giving them really positive words that they can feel good about themselves, and not having too much expectations about them spending time with you per se. And then, like I said, just look at everybody in your household, even your spouse. And that is a good segue to the next question. Any advice for married couples, newlyweds, who are now spending a lot more time together? Woo-wee, that's a good one. Dr. Nafisa, I'm going to hand that to you.
Thanks. And that's a hot potato.
Exactly, hot potato. You can take that one. And then I'll chime in after you if I need to, but go ahead.
I think if you haven't invested in actually getting to know each other and talking to each other and your relationship,
Instagram is ruthless. They just kick you out. There was no warning, nothing. They just, boom, we were out within seconds, right in the middle of Dr. Nafisa's awesome points. So I just invited her back. Hopefully she'll get my invitation to join. Sorry about that, but thank you all for
we will resume until we both decide that this is over. Instagram will not win, okay? They tried to end us. Sorry, that was ruthless, wasn't it? They just cut us out. There was no warning. But I'm sorry, Dr. Nafisa, please continue with
I don't know where I was, but it was so good, y'all missed it.
Oh, man. We need a reset. You got to go right from the beginning. Well,
all right. Well, just focus on building your relationship. Go back to, like I said, either taking the time to talk about things you really want to talk about, but also pay attention. Do the love languages for adults. If you need distance, if you need space, honor that. If you need cuddling and affection, give that person that. It's not about the love languages isn't about what you necessarily want. It's what the other person wants. So make sure that you're honoring them. So if you need love and affection and they don't just be like, well, that's what I need. Well, they need to respect you. And so teaching them about that. There are things you can do, but then, like I said, you can also find time to separate yourself, because if you're like in the house all day and you can't go anywhere, that can make everybody stir crazy. So create spaces for yourself to go do your own thing and then meet back together. You can create a routine still. That doesn't mean you have to be together 24/7. You can make the time that you do have together valuable, but have your own space as well.
I love that. I think it's wonderful advice. And I would just add, there's a lot of questionnaires that I think are really beneficial that kind of do a lot of the thinking for you. Because sometimes it's just a matter of like, if I want to do exercises or sort of getting to know you, something that would open up conversations with my partner, where do you start from, right? Well, there's already stuff that's available to you that you can use from, that are pre-prepared questions that you could ask one another to generate conversations. What I love to do, and I think is really helpful, is to come up with a set of scenarios, like what if, what if this happens,
This
or
could
what if
lead to
this happens.
fights, so be careful.
True, but I think it does, because they're hypotheticals that it's kind of emotionally not as, it's not as close as an actual situation where someone's thrown into. So I do find that it's helpful in some cases, but yeah, be careful. Maybe try some, neutral topics to start off with, but just some what if sort of hypothetical scenarios about the future that could kind of help you see where a person, what their problem solving skills are, how they approach problems. Are they reactive? Are they thoughtful? Are they emotional? All of those things give you an insight into, again, those qualities and characteristics that we might not see because we're so caught up in the excitement of a new budding relationship. But when we get into more in-depth conversations, it's like, oh, I didn't realize that about you because, X, Y, and Z. So I think it's great advice to find opportunities to get to know each other, like you said, but also, respect each other's differences. There's nothing, we shouldn't personalize. And I think this is a big, just general advice that everybody, whether you're married, single, parent or not, you can learn from, which is the more you increase yourself in emotional intelligence and really understand what emotional intelligence is, the less you will be someone who personalizes things. And I promise you, if you can learn how to not personalize everything, you will be so free as a person because you won't take offense to everything. You won't make everything about you. You're not the center of the world. You see that people are different and that they sometimes are having maybe a bad day, maybe their mood is off, maybe they're taking certain medications that inhibit their mood or affect their mood. There's so many things that we don't see because we're not, they're not clear to us or visibly clear to us. But if we just sat back and thought that, people are different, I got to give that, and temperaments are different. We're all, we were raised in different households, so maybe even the behaviors that we learned from our parents or our siblings or whatever, that we were raised in affect how we process things. So when you start doing that for every single person in your life, what that does is it disables this natural instinct, which is to become reactive and take offense and then, cause further problems, right? Cause further miscommunications where empathy is lost completely. I don't even see you as an individual anymore. I just see you as someone who impacts me, and what you say affects me, and what you say, and it's all about me. And this whole nafsi state that the world is in is really a problem. But I think that's why, again, when we go back to Islam and we see the prophetic example, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was constantly teaching us how to not be that way, not be nafsi. Look at everybody else through their own lens and realize that the only, the less attachments you have, the less expectations you have of people, the less likely you are to be hurt and be disappointed. Just, try to do that more. And so I think, just generally, we need to learn how to do that, to not personalize things, because the world does not revolve around us, right? We are not the sun. For some people,
what I wanted to say is that you might get offended because you guys are going to get on each other's nerves, but confronting each other during this time is not necessarily the best thing to do. And this is where you go to your journals, and your journals should be completely private. That's where you can go off on each other. You can talk about how they're annoying you, how just even them breathing makes you mad. Whatever it is, you can put all of that in your journal so that you're not saying that to the other person. Because your journal, you can burn it, you can throw it away. But the words that leave your mouth and you're saying it to somebody else, they will stick forever. So filter, get all your energy, all your anger, all your frustration out in your journal. You can rip it up, you can shred it afterwards, it doesn't matter. But be really careful about not spewing hateful comments that you're feeling in the moment that could cause years of hurt, and just go ahead and dump it in your journal. That's when you can separate yourself and you can be like, okay, this person's getting on my nerves. Go over there in the sit in the bathroom quietly, close the door, and just start journaling about how upset you are. And then hopefully that'll calm you down. Maybe do some deep breathing exercises and then come back and rejoin. Because when people are together, they can get on each other's nerves and things are going to be said that are going to be hurtful. Put it all in your journal.
I think that's such good advice. And the reason why is, in addition to all the benefits of just letting all that out and purging it somewhere that's not going to go anywhere, hopefully, I would say do not, because I know some people might feel inclined to pick up the phone and vent to a friend or a sibling or a parent. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. And there's so many reasons why that's so unhealthy. But like you said, in the moment, you're affected, you're in a reactive state, it's all, we're in a heightened state. So everything is just so big, right? But maybe, a couple hours later when things are fine, you're not feeling as angry. But if you've already called someone in that heightened state and just unleashed on your loved one, what you're doing is you're actually hurting their relationship with that person. You might feel better because it's like, I got it out and I got a sympathetic ear to validate me and whatever, but you've just literally ruined that person's impression of your spouse. And in the future, if it comes down to certain things, you know what I mean, it could actually come back to hurt you. So you have to be very thoughtful of
not. You can't take it back.
You can't take it back. So anytime you let it out to the individual themselves or to someone else, the damage is being caused. And I think that's why, unless you have someone who you look at as your, confidant, that you need, like someone who you really truly trust as a vault maybe, and that has the wisdom to be able to counsel you out of those negative states, please do not pick up the phone or go to your text messages or WhatsApp pages. And because I see people even outing their spouse to like groups, threads. Like I'm always like, really? So you went to your, sister's thread or your sibling's thread or your cousin's thread, and you just threw your spouse under the bus because of a petty argument that you'll get over in a week. And you don't realize that that's going to negatively impact their relationship. How would you like that if that was done to you? And that's the thing. That's always put it back on the, put yourself in the scenario. How would you like it if in your moment of, anger, someone took your words and maybe, painted you in the worst light possible to their friends and family, and without your knowing about it, just because they needed to purge. They were so angry they had to let it out, right? That's a horrible thing to do. And so loyalty and, honesty also comes out in those moments as well.
But I want to jump in too also. I mean, we're talking about normal relationship, normal bickering,
right.
normal.
Not abuse.
If you're in an abusive relationship or these close, because unfortunately, this social distancing has created a rise in domestic violence right now. If the negative verbal abuse and physical abuse is escalating and you're in that situation, please talk to somebody, call the authorities, leave the situation if you have to. This is not something you're supposed to just grin and bear it and just deal with it or journal about it. This is something that you definitely need to get help with. It's not okay for anybody to abuse you in any way, physically, mentally, emotionally. You need to stand up for yourself and reach out to people in those situations and talk to somebody. Don't just hold on to it and think, I have to hold on to this because I can't really talk to anybody. Please reach out.
That is excellent advice. I'm so glad you put that disclaimer out there because, again, we're talking a certain group of people, but anybody else in a different situation might misconstrue our advice and think that they shouldn't, do certain things. No, this applies only to people who are in normally healthy relationships, but just might, as we said, bicker, and then in the moment feel that they need to purge, let it out on other people that are, that they don't really want to hear it anyway. Trust me, your siblings, your friends, no matter how much they love you, they really don't want to be involved in your marital problems. They do not. They might, just out of courtesy, engage you, but in their hearts, it's very uncomfortable to be on the receiving end of that, because I have to face that person too, maybe in a few days or a week at this event. And now what? I hate their guts. That's not a comfortable feeling, right? So don't do that to people. But anyway, great advice. Did we miss any questions? Because I had questions, I think, on the previous chat, and I'm sorry again if I missed anybody's questions. We are trying to keep up with the thread as fast as possible. We did have another person come on also mentioning that some physicians and healthcare professionals are on the front lines and their risk of exposure is high. We did address that in the previous video. I don't know, again, for those of you who are just joining us, we've been going since 10, mashallah, 9:55 actually to be exact. So we've been
Give
going,
or
but
take a few.
give or take. But Instagram kicked us off, so we had to start a new live. But we did answer a lot of questions related to people on the front line and how to maybe handle those concerns that you have. Check out that first video after this broadcast. But if there's any other questions, this would be a really great time to ask. I think, did we cover all the ones that you and I shared, Nafis?
I wanted to talk about
Please,
the dealing with kids right now, because the
please,
kids
please.
are home and the kids are going stir crazy. We kind of mentioned about talking about love languages with different ages, but just in general, again, pay attention to how panicked you are, to how stressed out you are, and how freaked out you are, because your kids are not, they're watching you and reacting to your emotions. So it's like the pilot on the plane freaking out, the passengers are going to freak out, right? So no matter how turbulent the flight is, no matter what's coming in front of that pilot, they have to remain calm, and they have to convey a sense of calm to all the passengers in order for everybody to not freak out. We need to do the same thing at home. We need to stay calm. We need to not panic. We need to turn off that damn TV and not let it blare constantly, because I know during like 9/11, when the TVs were on constantly, people were getting vicarious traumatization from that. They had PTSD from that. The children were having nightmares from watching the news constantly. I remember we immigrated in the late 70s in Afghanistan, and I remember being there listening to my parents or watching my parents reacting to the constant negative news about the war that was happening. And I still remember that. That was years ago. And so this stuff stays with your kids. Make sure you're keeping that routine as consistent as possible. Turn off that news. If you need to check in every once in a while, but don't talk about your fear and panic in front of kids, especially the really little ones, because they don't know what to do with all this information.
And just to add to that, I had a friend actually have that exact scenario, is that her daughter was panicking and having nightmares, and she blames, she was taking it on herself, like she was talking about it too openly in front of her. So I think we need to, take it very seriously.
We need to stay calm. We need to keep our routines. We need to make sure their bedtime is consistent. Don't let your kids just wander around and stay up all night just because they don't have school right now. They have to go to bed on time. Our body is synced with the sun. We produce melatonin as soon as the sun is setting, and it peaks at a certain time. For kids, it's earlier. They need to get a certain amount of sleep. They need to, during that peak production of melatonin, they need to be in a deep state of sleep so that their bodies can rest and repair. When we're letting them not have a bedtime routine, when we're letting them sleep whenever, when they're sleeping all day and staying up all night, that's not helping their bodies and their minds repair and heal itself. So we need to make sure those sleep routines are consistent. We need to make sure they're going to bed with calm, with peace. If you have to put on some guided meditation for kids to listen to, if you want to tell them a really fun story for them to go to sleep with, that time right before bed is prime property. What they go to bed with is going to determine what their dreams are going to be like, whether they're rested, whether they get a good night's sleep. So make sure you're focusing on that. And then what else? Teaching them breathing exercises, just helping them to just stay calm, because the goal isn't to protect them from bad things happening to them. It's to teach them how to deal with struggles and obstacles in their lives. There's an author, Glennon Doyle, who talks about how we shouldn't prevent our kids from walking through the fire. We need to teach them how to deal with that fire that they're going through. And I really like that, because we're so busy sheltering our kids and protecting them so much. It's not about telling them all the horrors and gory details about the world, but should you be in a stressful situation, how do you deal with it? Let's focus on going inward. Let's calm ourselves down. Let's breathe. Let's do some grounding exercises. Let's draw out our feelings so we can talk about it. And also, let them express their feelings. Let them talk about their fears, and then really discuss it with them and allow them to process that if it's possible. And for some kids, I mean, journaling is a really good idea, but for the little ones, they can draw out monsters, they can draw out whatever. Allow them to do that if they need to. And then the biggest thing, I'm so big on diet and keeping this lifestyle and exercising, dieting, and eating healthy and sleeping, because all of that contributes to a healthy mind and body. When not sleeping, when you're not eating healthy foods, when you're constantly consuming sugars, you're going to feel anxious. You're going to trigger anxiety. And for kids, there are a lot of junk foods and what's it called, preservatives that are creating anxiety for kids as well, because they're not feeding their body what they need. So make sure they're making good healthy decisions with regarding food, making sure that they're eating healthy foods, giving them fruits and vegetables, giving them vitamins to make sure they're getting the minerals that they need, and then also allowing them to exercise. So this is a great time for you to come up with little dance parties. This is a great time to come up with craft ideas. I just posted something about 100 ideas for kids to do and while you're stuck indoors. It's a great time for storytelling. It's a great time to go through photo albums. It's a great time to create online photo albums. I know you guys have thousands of pictures, so it's a good time to go and reflect on all that and put albums together. So these are activities you guys can do that's creating a sense of calm. It's keeping routine. It's keeping them from being bored. It's giving them space. And then also, I don't believe in timeout being as punishment. So if they are acting up and they are freaking out, this is a good time to say, okay, we all need to take a moment and give ourselves a timeout in a positive way. Awesome. Go into your corners, put on some peaceful music, and then just breathe.
Those are great tips. I just had to take my AirPods out, so I hope you guys can still hear me clear. We had another question. It was a really good question about how to handle canceling events with people, and making sure, because people are taking offense in the most diplomatic and appropriate way. Any advice you want to share? I have some ideas, but I'll wait for you.
I don't think anybody at this point will take offense to this. This is even when I was talking about my mom in the last episode, having a party and having to cancel. She was so worried about disappointing people that were making plans to be at the party. It's like, nobody's going to be offended at this point. Right. This is not something that she's doing to anybody. This is something that is recommended, and this isn't something that anybody should take personally. And so I don't think anybody will take offense if you need to cancel or somebody else should cancel. There's no reason for any of us to take this personally. This is something that we're all doing as a precautionary measure, but also protecting ourselves as well.
Right. And if you do have those people who are taking offense because you're not able to attend their events, then I just, would say take it as a learning moment to know that some people might be reasonable and some people aren't reasonable, and to, just kind of create maybe a more healthy boundary with that person, because if they come back and really, take it hard or make you feel guilty about it, then that's not someone that I think you should, invite.
And they might not be aware of the severity of the situation, and they're focusing only on themselves and not thinking about what other people are going through. So
very good. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, thank you. So sorry, we just had another question pop up to me on the question box, but the last question I got was about how to heal from anxiety, which I thought was a really good segue into just doing, I know you don't promote yourself, but I'm going to go ahead and do that real quickly. For those of you who are just joining, Dr. Nafisa, mashallah, has, a tailored program that she herself created. It is on anxiety management, and it's a course that she provides. For those of you who are really struggling, just having, the experience that I have over the years with her personally, but also with other people who are always seeking, mental health support over the past 20 years. I've worked with people. I'm a mental health advocate. I really do feel that there's benefit in actually doing courses on certain topics versus committing to regular, visitation and having, sort of a relationship where you're waiting to get appointments with therapists, and it kind of can get drawn out, right? Because sometimes your schedule might not permit, or their schedule might not permit. So I see people sometimes prolonging whatever issues they're struggling with, whether it's marital issues or personal issues, because of basic logistics, right? So I would say there's great virtue sometimes in saying, you know what, I'm going to just, take a course and actually commit to a program and just see what happens to it. We invest in a lot of things without even thinking that we're investing in them, things that don't really benefit us overall. But when it comes to our mental well-being, it is critical that if you're suffering from anxiety, depression, anything that's going on with your mental health, that you prioritize that. Absolutely, it should be at the top of your list. More so maybe than a nagging, maybe backache or something that you could work with, on your own at home. There's nothing more, I think, important than preserving your sanity and your mind and your well-being, because it affects everything else. So you can find out more information by looking at Dr. Nafisa's page. I'll definitely, you can tag her. I mean, if you don't follow her, please follow her, but look into her page. She's got a lot of information there. I think, if there's any other questions, we can go ahead.
I just quickly wanted to add that this course is a 6 weeks course. It's online. It's all at your own pace, but it doesn't involve therapy, and it's called a course because all the information you need to manage your anxiety is in the course. But it's self-paced, and so you're doing it on your own. All that information's there, but there is a community of support as well. So I didn't want anybody to think that they're actually getting one-on-one support from me or getting therapy. And I know there are a lot of people that don't want to go to a therapist. They don't want to commit to seeing a therapist. They don't like the idea of actually talking to somebody, or they don't have access to it. So that's what this course is about. And if you guys are interested in learning more, you guys can go to drsekandarycourses.com. /learn more, or you can go visit my Instagram page and look at the link in the bio. But thank you, Issy, for bringing that up.
Of course, alhamdulillah. I thought it was a perfect segue. So, are there any other questions? I again don't want to make sure that anything else that people want to ask in these final moments. Again, I know there's some latecomers that joined us. By the way, I will save these videos, hopefully, and you will have access to them via the stories. I'll have to play around. I don't actually know how to do all of this. I'm learning, but we'll try to save these, inshallah, so that anybody who joined late, if you're interested, you can watch it from the beginning and see some of the pointers we gave. We did talk a lot about anxiety, how to, basically control some of those negative thoughts that we're experiencing from a mental health perspective and a spiritual perspective, which is, again, I'll just put this out there for those of you who don't know. Dr. Nafisa and I go, she's my cousin, my first cousin.
We go way back.
We go way back. But we actually brought our skill sets together in 2009. I think she corrected me. Unfortunately, for some reason, I think we launched maybe in 2010, but she's correct to say that we came together and we started collaborating in 2009.
We launched in 2009.
Yeah. We did we? Okay.
Yeah.
My dates are totally off. So clearly I need to go and check my memory.
We've been around a long time.
So 2009, alhamdulillah, we've been working together. We have the website mentalhealth4muslims.com, which now Dr. Nafisa manages full time. She's pretty much taken the helm of that. She is an expert, but there's still a lot of relevant articles that we both contribute to.
A lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff on there. I advise you, if you want to check it out, please do so. There's articles for everybody, and we've had international, global reception, by the way, questions from people from all over the world, and a lot of appreciation for people who've used our articles, from mental health experts, right, in different parts of the world, as well as just, average Muslims who are really looking for content that speaks to their issues. So we've covered everything from bipolar, depression, substance abuse, domestic violence, marriage. I mean, there's really so many things that we've talked about on that website. So please feel free to look through those articles. Dr. Nafisa is available on Instagram to follow her for regular updates. She also manages the Mental Health for Muslims Facebook page, regularly updating.
I'm also on Dr. Sekandari, clinical psychologist, on Facebook as well, if you guys want to come. And then I also have an anxiety group if you guys want to join it. It's called Transform Anxiety. It's a Facebook group where we talk all about anxiety. So please join the Transform Anxiety group on Facebook.
That's awesome.
So we're everywhere.
Yeah, we're everywhere. We're here on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter. I mean, I'm not very active.
I don't do Twitter.
Well, they used to have a feature where Facebook could automatically update, and they removed that. So now I'm definitely inactive.
I don't understand Twitter. I like it, but I don't understand it.
Yeah. So, but follow if you have any follow-up questions. And you know what? Let us know if you like these lives. Maybe we could do more, Dr. Nafisa. What do you think?
We'll take our show on the road. We'll do
it. What do you think? I mean, if people are willing to tune in and they appreciate us talking about whatever, I think it'll be fun to do that. So let us know. Give us some feedback of anything else you might want us to address. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you for those of you who stayed for the whole broadcast.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, because it's you could be doing anything right now, but you chose to join us, so we appreciate that, and we wish you and your families the best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep
all well.
Safe. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Sammy. You're so sweet. I love Sammy. She put our website up. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank you.
but we wish all of you the best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect every single, all of us, every single person on the planet. We really should wish goodwill for everybody. This isn't a Muslim and non-Muslim thing. Astaghfirullah, I don't know why anybody would think that. We just want good for our planet. We should want good for all innocent people. We should pray ardently for a cure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the top minds. And may Allah bless them. All of you in the healthcare
Thank you.
field, thank you for your service. May God bless all of you. Really, you're truly the angels with wings right now. But may Allah open opportunity for someone, anybody, to find a cure for this horrible disease and to protect everybody, inshallah, and give us strength. And also, the best outcome that we could ask for is that this brings us closer to our Lord. That's the number one thing that we should ask for. Ya Allah, please use this calamity, this tragedy, to strengthen our relationship with you, Ya Rab. Whatever that means, strengthen my love for you, my dependence on you. Help me realign myself to be more in connection with you, and start to look at again all those areas in your life that we might need to really